everyone. Welcome to this episode of The Dealer Playbook, a podcast that explores what it takes to create a thriving career right here in the retail auto industry. I'm your host, Michael Cirillo. Today, I'm sitting down with Max Zanan. He's a best-selling author, and we are talking about how to sell cars the way consumers want to buy cars. Well, I'm dying to know, how does one transition from a master's degree and a background in criminal justice to the automotive industry, but not just the automotive industry, eventually, running the number one Mitsubishi dealership in the United States? Like, how does that even, you're like, hey, I'm going to use was that so you knew who to hire in the car business?
So, life is just a sequence of events, random events, right? So I went to John Jay College of Criminal Justice. It's in New York City. It's located on 10th Avenue and 59th Street. And I got my master's degree, and I really wanted to go into military intelligence.
Right.
Like James Bond, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
So, if I did the research 2 years earlier, maybe I wouldn't get a master's degree in security management, because you have to be born in America to get a top secret clearance.
Right.
And I was born in Moscow.
So already failed intelligence gathering.
Right. So there's no top secret clearance in my future, and I don't know what you can do with that degree, So 2 blocks behind college on 11th Avenue and 61st Street was a dealership, Potemkin Volkswagen. And I was desperate to get a job, car dealers are not picky. They don't care if you have experience,
Right.
They said, okay, start tomorrow.
And so what year would this have been around?
2001.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So great timing to get into the car business.
Right. So it was right after 9/11,
Wow.
but the less you know, I think the better off you are.
Sure.
I was young and naive, and I couldn't put 2 and 2 together that, maybe, a crisis like 9/11 might have a negative impact on car buying patterns. You just stand there and you sell cars, they tell you what to do, and like a robot, you do it,
Right. In hindsight, do you think they would have made an exception around that time for somebody with your education? Because that almost seems like the perfect opportunity. It's like, 9/11 happens, crisis. And now all of a sudden it's like, maybe we need somebody with this background. And you had just popped right into the car business.
Right. I just, I maybe, but again, life is a sequence of random events,
Sure. Yeah.
And I have no regrets, because car business is an amazing education.
Right.
In terms of developing social skills, friendships, understanding lending, understanding compliance. It's much more complex than people from the outside give it credit.
Sure. Why do you think that is? What do you think perpetuates that stigma surrounding the car business?
So unfortunately, there are bad apples, right? And bad apples always get in trouble, right? And bad apples generate headlines, whether it's newspaper or TV or internet. And there's a negative type of stigma attached to car sales. The fact that there's no educational requirement to sell cars.
Sure.
It also gives it a negative type of stigma,
Right.
And ultimately, I think maybe NADA, or even, let's forget NADA, but even just a state dealer association or an individual dealer, they really do not make an effort to do any public relations outreach. They all do marketing, right? They all do advertising, but it's never public relations.
Right.
And I think once they realize that public relations will improve the image, and an improvement in image will make it easier for car dealers to hire and retain talent.
Sure. I think, that's an interesting point, because, you can think of, I mean, it's almost like we try and map everything in a one-to-one fashion. Advertise equals phone call. Build dealership, customers will come. You never really think about public relations and what it really means and the advantage that might mean. Because, I mean, you and I both know dealerships are doing some really phenomenal things in their community. During COVID, I mean, seeing dealerships innovate and repurpose and say, hey, we're going to now help people get their groceries, or we're going to, like, there's a lot of things, but you're right. I mean, from a state level, if there was somebody on a public relations committee or something like that was able to take all of these things and distribute them into the communities the right way to help shift that message, we might see maybe hopefully a shift. But you're right. There's also this trickle down effect where, you know, mom and dad had a perception of the car industry, and then they pass that down by saying, oh, you're going to buy your first car, be careful about this, and he's going to try and do that. And even if none of those things even happen to them, they're, oh, be careful. They're going to, the doc fee and the this and the that. And so now we've just created another generation of, you know, apprehensive buyers.
Exactly. So remember a while ago, there was this advertising campaign, Got Milk?
Right. Yep.
So they didn't care what type of milk you bought, right? As long as you bought milk.
Right.
So it was just sponsored by the milk producing industry. And I think this is a prime example of what automotive retail industry needs to do to improve its image. It shouldn't be about pushing, buy this Cadillac or buy this Toyota. It should be about how beneficial it is, to work in a car dealership, the skills you can learn, the good things you can do for the community, as a car dealer. I think that will solve a lot of problems, because at the end of the day, we're in the people business, and bad people will always get you in trouble.
Right.
But if you limit it, and you can't attract good people, mm-hmm. you have no choice but end up with so bad people.
Right. And what's interesting about that is, speaking about COVID for a minute, all of the experts and the pundits and the news media, everybody said this is going to be catastrophic. And here are the industries that it will be catastrophic for. Obviously, automotive being one of them. We see factories shut down. We see dealerships, shutting down. We see, all of this. People are being furloughed by the thousands. And so we go, in the moment, we go, see, that's exactly what we said was going to happen. This is going to be catastrophic. But I don't know about you. Just keeping a finger on the pulse globally, we have also seen what can only be called miraculous return to market by consumers in the months of May and continuing on into June. We're seeing strong numbers. We're seeing this. I don't want to, be all superstitious by calling it a recovery or whatever, but we are seeing, to your point, that auto dealers can and do have a very real impact on driving the economy.
Well, absolutely.
And that's something we don't even talk about enough. Like, oh yeah, scummy car dealer, and they're going to take advantage of you. Yeah, no, they're also employing over 100 people in this city, which if you're in a city of 10,000 people, that's a big deal.
Right. And they generate tremendous amount of revenue for the local government. The sales tax alone, is a serious amount of money for each locality. Not to mention, people on payroll and the, income taxes that these people pay and then end up spending money in the community. So car dealers are good. Unfortunately, like everywhere else, they're bad apples, and I'm hoping that maybe COVID-19 will actually eliminate the bad apples and make it easier for the good apples to operate.
Yeah. What are some of the ways you see that could happen?
Well, again, I don't think that every dealer was prepared to do sales remotely.
Sure.
I heard some horror stories where people couldn't even log into DealerTrack from their home, right? Because the IP address, was not being recognized.
Right.
So a lot of those people missed tremendous amount of opportunities because remote sales were taking place and their competitors were selling cars. So maybe some of them won't make it, or at least maybe it'll trigger them to sell.
Okay.
Because they might think, if there's a second wave,
right,
it'll definitely take me under.
Sure.
So maybe there will be an uptick in buy-sell activity.
Sure. And so you seem to me like the individual that is always looking for the opening, even in the sense that you said remote retail, not digital retail, which is interesting to me because everybody's talking about digital retail and you're saying, well, no, but you can still remote retail even if you don't have software to do a full whatever.
So, I'm very skeptical when it comes to digital retail only because dealers don't believe in it. It has nothing to do with my opinion, right? So digital retail existed before COVID-19.
Right.
Right. It just, nobody was interested in it. Right. Car dealers do not believe in it because they think that if you sell a car online, you're going to make less money. Right. That's a very simple formula. So that's the correlation in their mind.
Is that
correct?
You mean because they think that they'll be able to build more rapport, build more trust in an in-person fashion?
No, they think that you would have to give a very low price for the customer to put the car in a shopping cart.
Right, because now you're competing against Carvana.
Meanwhile, Carvana is, their gross profit is substantial. They're not in business of giving cars away.
Right.
So that correlation between transparency and making less money, I think, is a faulty correlation in the dealer's mind, but their perception is their reality, and that's why they're not interested in digital retail. So when COVID-19 came around, everybody started signing up for some digital retail tool. But now, as restrictions are being removed, car dealers will go back to the old way of doing business. Because if you were, eating hot dogs for 25 years, and just for 2 weeks you were forced to be vegetarian, trust me, you're going back to hot dogs.
I've never really thought of it that way. Do you think though that customers got a taste of a simplified process and now they're going to demand that, or will that have any bearing, do you think?
So that's the thing, customers always knew that it's easier to buy things online.
Right.
And dealers always knew that because there's an amazing disconnect. You can go to a car dealership and you will see throughout the day Amazon packages being delivered for people that work at the dealership.
Right.
And they love it. But when you tell them, why don't you provide this Amazon experience for your customers, they look at you like you're crazy.
Sure.
They think it makes zero sense.
Sure.
So I think that's the real issue. Customers always knew that, but it's almost like going to a dentist, right? It's going to be painful, and you would think that they would come up with some kind of anesthetic by now, that it should be like all rainbows and unicorns when you go to the dentist, but it's not. So I think they think of car buying the same way. Even though they theoretically know it should be painless, they go and they get subjected to these, negotiations that are back and forth, and then there's some talking heads in the industry that periodically put out some ridiculous surveys saying that consumers love to haggle. Yeah. So they're reinforcing this notion that, of course, they love to come to the showroom and they look forward to haggling, which it's nonsense.
What's funny too, now that you're saying this, we immediately said, hey, let's compare car dealers to Amazon. Look how Amazon's doing it, which I totally understand because the Amazon experience is I see it. I like the price. I get to decide if I'm going to click the buy now button and have it delivered to me. You don't decide that. I decide that. I think that and maybe I'm wrong, but I think that the issue has been that we went right from that model to apply that to a car. Apply this $29 model to a $79,000 product when we should have said, hey, like, why aren't you doing that to your parts department first to get your feet wet? Like, here's a perfect example. I have been waiting for 5.5 days to hear back from the local motorcycle store to get a new radiator. Like, I just order part should actually be order part. It should not be submit parts request. And that could have been an interesting, in between for us to wrap our head around the Amazon concept by just having parts available for sale. Oh, you want a radiator? Boom. It's $300. Okay, boom, done. Order shows up at my door. Fantastic. Or hey, would you like us to install it for you? But we went right from $29 model Amazon but you should be applying that to your $79,000 truck. And I think maybe do you think maybe that's where they were like, but $29, $79,000.
So I went to NADA in February.
Right.
And I went to a workshop where I heard a fascinating statistic that I think will put everything in perspective. 97% of owners, GMs, and partners in a car dealership came up through sales. So that means that 97% of them probably never been inside a parts department. They don't even know where it's located.
It's a different universe.
Right. So you're right. If you really want to get your feet wet and learn digital retail, you shouldn't start selling cars online. You should start selling parts online and figure out how it works. Do you do it on eBay? Do you do it on Amazon? Do you build your own parts store? Do you do it on the same domain as your dealership website? Yeah. How do you handle shipping? How do you handle returns? Do you hire additional personnel?
Yeah, tax.
Right.
Payment processing.
But since they've never been inside a parts department,
right.
They just don't see the value. So they only know that you can sell your way out of trouble by selling cars. And, they don't want to do it digitally because it's a lot of change and it's a lot of, everybody hates change. So I think that the first step that they need to do is forget the internet. Right? You're right. We shouldn't be jumping from $29 to $79,000. Why not? The biggest frustration, and I say this not as an industry insider, I say it as a consumer. The biggest frustration is the negotiation. Just tell me how much is the car.
Right.
Right? You can't give me your best price because best price is very subjective. Your best price is probably over sticker. Right?
Sure.
Because it's best for you.
My best price is $3,000 more than what it says here.
Right. So when you go to Amazon, right? Let's say paper towels, right?
Yeah.
You're not asking Amazon for the best price. You just want to see the price. And if it's fine with you,
yeah,
you will buy it. And if it's not fine with you, you will not buy it.
This brings up a good point too, because it has to do with conveying the value in like, price is only an issue in the absence of value. And here's what I mean by that. My wife and I recently found this new app, and I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that. And if I was sponsored by them, I don't know how it fits with automotive because it has to do with purchasing groceries. But there's this app called Instacart.
Right.
You've heard of Instacart? Okay, so we love that. Forget rolling into the Walmart parking lot and waiting for somebody to bring your groceries. No, somebody does your grocery shopping for you and then delivers them to your doorstep. And they're very upfront about when the price matches what you would see in the store. They're very upfront about, hey, no, that you're going to pay 3 cents more per apple at this location because we haven't however, we're still delivering groceries to your door. So it's now on my wife and I to say, but we see the value in that price, that 3 cents extra for a plum or a watermelon or whatever, simply because they have created an experience that makes paying a little bit extra worth it. Car dealers go get best price, and then they don't back it up with any reassurance of what value they will deliver back to me. It's like, well, you're getting the car. It's worth, it's $80,000 car. That's what you get in return. It's like, no, man, like what else are you packaging or bundling into this experience that makes me want to go, yes, you.
So, it's sometimes I think that maybe I am missing something or maybe you are missing something, right?
Oh, it's entire. Let's ask my wife. I'm sure it's me.
But if you look at Carvana, right?
Yeah.
This is the message, right? They said, we are going to give you a transparent buying experience similar to Amazon, because they didn't need to reinvent the wheel. Amazon already did it.
Yeah.
So when you say Amazon experience, everybody in America understands what we're talking about.
Sure.
So when you go to Carvana's website, they just show you the price of the car.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no form to fill out.
Well, to your point, though, it's because I know I don't have to negotiate with anyone. Like their experience is that they removed the experience I don't want to have.
Exactly. But if you speak to car dealers, they will tell you that Carvana is doing it wrong,
right?
And that people love to negotiate.
Sure.
And that's why they have to fill out a form to see the e-price or unlock the e-price, or, it'll say too low to show.
Sure. Yeah. It's even like I'm on their website right now, we need to pay attention. Hey, sure, you can come up with whatever. They're not making money, or they are making money, or they're on raised capital, or this or that. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about what are they using the money for? They're using the money to figure out a new model or a revision to a model that guess what? They sold 177,000 vehicles in 2019. They are proving that there is a segment of the market that likes this. And so I'm on their website right now, Max, and I'm looking at, wow, I can get pre-qualified and see real terms and actual monthly payments in 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
But most importantly, you see the price of the car. That's the first
That's right.
point of contention. You don't need to call anybody. You don't need to fill out any forms, right? And you can make a decision whether you want to move forward based on this particular price.
Totally.
And that's what dealers need to do. Just give the price. Switching to one price will fix a lot of problems. And one price does not mean low price. Just look at Carvana's prices. This is not giveaway motors.
That's right.
And they are a publicly traded company, right, that reports their profits. So they are, hovering around $3,100 a car with the goal of getting to, I think, $3,800. And they will get there because people are obviously willing to pay for convenience.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm looking at how they merchandise the vehicle, and I'm looking at how they lay out the information on the VDP. And you know what I think is really interesting about it is, there aren't 40 calls to action on the page, right? They're like, I'm going to try something. This will be a first in dealer playbook history. Let's just see here. Share. Can you see what I'm looking at?
Yes. You're looking at the Subaru, right? Yeah.
That's it. So there are not 25 different calls to action. Right on the first page here, what I can see is year, make, model, a few of the features, the miles, the price, the estimated monthly payment, and a build my deal button. And then I'm on to pictures. But here's what I like, Max. As I scroll down the page, they are mixing in the merchandising of this vehicle with their value propositions. Like right after photos, it's delivery and pickup options and 7-day money back guarantee. get an estimated delivery time. And then they go into the vehicle details, but then they go right back after vehicle details. They go into like build my deal, some interactive. They get into their protection plans. They get into more value propositions like, hey, from inspection to perfection, like they're validating reasons why you should purchase this vehicle. Whereas, and keeping the spotlight on you buying the vehicle, not you buying the vehicle from me, the car dealer. And I see that as a mistake that a lot of car dealers make, is like, it's all about you, and they're making it all about them.
Right. And you know, it's funny that in car business, you know, you don't need to be a pioneer, right? You can just imitate, right? So why not, like all these website providers, whether it's dealer.com or DealerFi or whoever is in business of building dealer website,
right?
None of them look like that.
Yeah.
Just, you know, why not go and make a website that looks like Amazon or looks like Carvana? Because that's what people are familiar with. You know,
it's because they developed a ton of crap without user testing, spent a crap load of money developing it, and now they're trying to, they have to keep it that way so they can recoup their money on all the development, right?
But it's so unfair, you know, and dealers are paying these, you know, these websites are not cheap.
No.
You know, and they're paying them on autopilot, and they're not getting the user experience that their customers deserve,
right,
or want. You know, but nobody wants to, you know, look in the mirror and say, you know, listen, to me, the problem always starts with OEM, right? Because a lot of times OEM mandates that you use certain website providers, or OEM mandates you spend $5 million on facility, you know, upgrade.
Yep.
If we're serious about, you know, digital retail, you know, you will never hear anybody say that I bought the Subaru because the tile in the bathroom in that dealership was mind blowing. I mean, if it wasn't for that tile, I'm going to go with a Honda. You know, so maybe mandate the same $5 million upgrade, but digital upgrade.
Yeah.
You know, and believe me, $5 million will get you, you know, an unbelievable website.
Sure.
Probably better than the one Carvana has.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, hey, and you wouldn't even you don't even need to spend close to that to get a website that's, you know, but you're right. It's everything kind of trickles down to what experience are you providing, whether it's digital or in store, what experience are you providing to the people that matter most, the customer?
Right. Exactly. And I think also, you know, you were talking about going from like $29 item on Amazon to a $79,000 truck. But if you look at a Mercedes buyer, right, I think they're buying a status, right? They're not interested in the test drive, right? Nobody's going to say, well, you know, that S500, it drove,
right,
it was terrible.
Right.
You know, so I think they'll be the first ones to jump on digital retail.
Right.
You know, and pay the premium for delivery. You know, delivery doesn't have to be free. Just because Carvana does free delivery, it doesn't make it right. You know, Vroom charges, I think, $500 or $499 to deliver a car. So car dealers can do the same. You know, delivery doesn't have to be free, and people will pay for convenience. And maybe it'll actually start with the highline users, highline buyers.
Yep. You bring up a point in one of your books, Perfect Dealership, which we're going to link to in the show notes. You bring up a variety of factors, and one of them in particular that I think is so crucial, even more so than ever as we move into this digital retail, remote retail, whatever you want to call it, landscape, and that is employee training. I mean, obviously, you don't go from your master's degree and then a job in a dealership to running the number one Mitsubishi dealership in the United States without understanding the importance of getting your people to perform at a certain level. What do you see the need will be now with digital retailing? And I guess my preface to that is my fear is that this concept of digital retail is just going to be another one of those Hail Mary approaches where we're like, yes, all we need is that digital retailing tool and we're going to be good. I mean, what do you see is actually going to be needed to support this model?
So believe it or not, I think the only way to do it is do exactly what Carvana does. Carvana is a BDC department with the website. Right? That's all it is.
Sure.
And in that, but the difference is this: in a car dealership, a BDC department is selling appointments. In a Carvana environment, a BDC department is actually selling a car. Meaning the price is set, but they still get on the phone and get the steps, help you with the credit app, get you the approval, explain everything to you. It's not truly a digital experience. It's more of a phone experience.
Yeah, it's like a facilitated experience.
Exactly. Yeah. So what we need to do in the dealership environment is to re-engineer our BDC department and make people that used to be salesmen or F&I managers, or sales managers become BDC employees and give them an opportunity to sell the car, whether it's over the phone, over email, over a Zoom conference call, right? And take the deal from A to Z. And that will require a lot of training.
Yeah. We're almost at that point now where, and I say this obviously lovingly, right? Anybody that listens to the show knows that I'm not here to, offend anyone. However, the car sales pro today, if the process was set up properly and we created a facilitated experience, like, what do I need a car salesperson for? They're like real estate agents. When you go and I remember looking for a house and I'm like, why the heck did I hire a real estate agent to go and look at this house when they just stand in the corner and they tell me everything I'm going to find out anyways. This house has 6 bedrooms. Okay. I'll learn that. And consumers are online researching vehicles now. And we've been talking about this for years, where the consumer in many instances already knows more about the vehicle than the salesperson trying to quote unquote sell it. So I actually really, this resonates with me, what you're saying about re-engineering the BDC department, because that's a model that can actually facilitate a customer making their own choices that they're already capable of making versus us thinking that we have to somehow convince them to buy the car.
Exactly. And we can do F&I, right? Through Zoom. Right. And we can put F&I online and make it transparent. Don't just put the price of the car, put the price of the warranty, put the price of the tire and wheel protection or gap coverage. It's so basic that sometimes I think that something's wrong with me because dealers don't see it. But when they go to bestbuy.com, right, and they buy a TV, and then all of a sudden there's a pop-up window says, oh, there's a service plan for your TV, and this is how much it costs, and click here.
Sure.
This has been done. I'm not, the one inventing it.
Yeah. And you know what? That's a good point too, because people are going to Best Buy. They're buying home theater systems and packages and more expensive computers, Apple, Microsoft. People are now, it's not just a $29 product. People are now accustomed to spending $3,000, $5,000, $7,000 on a piece of hardware from one of these outlets. And so you're right. Consumer behavior is shifting to the degree that we're becoming more comfortable making bigger purchases online.
Right. And there's no need to fight it, and I think every time a dealer fights it, they just make it easier for Carvana. I believe that Carvana doesn't even have to advertise anymore. Because Carvana gives you the opposite of what you get in the dealership.
Interesting.
And I think people already know this.
Sure. And to your point, the dealership already has the capability to deliver this same experience.
Exactly. I think dealership has a better capability, right? Because a dealership has a parts and service department that Carvana does not.
Interesting.
And I think that's the real deal breaker. If maybe if I buy the car from Carvana and it gets delivered, let's say I'm in New York and the car gets delivered from Oklahoma, it really doesn't matter.
Sure.
But when it comes to service, I'm not driving to Oklahoma to get an oil change. The service is local, and the dealership has, a built-in advantage. But again, because dealers choose to ignore service in most cases, they don't take advantage of it.
Which is crazy too, especially where you see things headed. Like, this is a massive opening, and I agree with you. You have a fully functioning facility to offer a 360-degree service to a customer. All we're talking about here is tweaking some of your process to deliver the experience that they expect. I just saw recently a recent headline about Walmart closing all of their tire and lube facilities.
Oh, wow.
And so this is a big opportunity where just a year ago, people are talking about, look at Walmart. They're in your space and they're taking away market share, or the Jiffy Lube or the Pennzoil and the quick lube oil changes. We're going to see an interesting thing here where dealerships who are funded, who are operating service departments already, are going to have a competitive advantage over some of these companies that are closing due to COVID.
Right. But my fear is that Carvana at some point, so I think what we see in this phase one, they're just selling cars, they're grabbing market share,
Sure.
they're entering more and more markets.
Right.
But I almost guarantee that there's a phase two. And phase two will mean Carvana entering into fixed ops, because they have customers all over the country.
Sure.
So do they need to build their service department from scratch? Probably not. They have enough firepower to just buy Jiffy Lube and rebrand it.
Sure.
And offer the same experience that you already get from Jiffy Lube. So think of it as a Jiffy Lube owner, right? If I was a Jiffy Lube owner, right, I would wake up every morning and pinch myself, thinking, how is this possible that I make a living for one simple reason, that car dealers throughout the country cannot schedule an oil change appointment? Right? This is the only reason for my existence. Right. I don't use better parts. I don't use better technicians. I don't have a better location, right? The only thing I do is just I let you come in without calling me. Yeah. This is my secret sauce. I can't even trademark it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So it really does come down. It really comes down to process, people, process, and product.
Exactly. So I bought a car, right, from a friend of mine who was a car dealer. And at one time I called him because I was due for an oil change. And I said, can I come in? He says, no, we're really busy today. So I said, don't worry about it. I went to Jiffy Lube. I don't know anybody at Jiffy Lube. I don't have friends at Jiffy Lube. That's
why you're totally right. I mean, it's funny too, because you see people that purchase all the warranty, bumper to bumper, they get all the coverage and all these things, and they're still going to these quick service places to get it done because they don't want to go through the hassle of, oh, well, we got to drop off your vehicle, then we got to drive you to where you want to go, and then why can't I just sit in my car for the next 10 minutes with your complimentary water or coffee and an iPad?
Right.
Because that's what they're doing at Jiffy Lube for the $47 oil change.
Right. So I think that's the real problem. Once Carvana, so right now Carvana is slowly chipping away at used car revenue, right? So let's talk about new car revenue, right? You can't make money selling new cars, right? We've proved it. There's no money in it. We're losing money on each car sale. So we have to rely on used car sales, parts, and service. So Carvana and CarMax and now Vroom are slowly chipping away at used car revenue. At the same time, they're chipping away at your service and parts revenue because you get to recondition less cars.
Right.
You get to sell less cars because this is a zero-sum game, right? The Carvana customer, if it wasn't for Carvana, had to be a dealer's customer.
Right.
So you get less service, you get less reconditioning, you get less sales. So at some point, this house of cards will have to collapse, especially if Carvana enters into fixed ops and starts taking away your 45% profit margin on parts, your 75% profit margin on labor.
So if just winding this down, because I mean, you and we could talk about this all day. And in fact, we do talk about this all day, just not in podcast format. But right. What if you were to urge those listening to take action on a specific thing right now? What do you want them to be focused on? What do you want them to be paying attention to?
You have to be honest with yourself. And the only way to do it is to mystery shop your business. And believe me, I'm not selling you mystery shopping. I'm not in that business. But if you are a dealer principal, you have to be able to mystery shop everybody in your store, right? So if you call to schedule an appointment for service and they say, no problem, we'll see you in 3 weeks, you failed.
Right.
Right. Or if you pull up into the service drive and you say that you're here for an oil change and the service advisor says, okay, and there's no walk around, there's no attempt to upsell, and you just get a one-line item repair order, you failed.
Right.
And then you don't get a phone call from the advisor to upsell you anything because your technician never did the multi-point vehicle inspection.
Right.
You failed. If you call your sales department and say, how much is this Jeep Grand Cherokee? And they say, well, Michael, you have to come in. We give better prices in the showroom. You failed, right?
Right.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
But most people do not want to face reality because this is a hard pill to swallow as an owner. When you call your parts, sales, and service, and you hear this, what do you do? How do you go on? Do you go crazy and fire everybody? What do you do? So that's why I think a lot of them choose not to do it at all.
Yeah. And this feeds into the larger narrative of why people matter and why culture matters. And why this is where those pie in the sky topics become very tangible. The reason culture matters is because then your people have a place that they actually want to come and contribute to. And when you have people that are showing up to contribute, there's greater buy-in. And when you have to face the facts that your process needs a tweak, they are going to be willing to make those tweaks because they're bought in, versus kind of this perpetuating issue that we have right now, which is like, I show up because it's a job and whatever. I don't really care what happens, even though I do care in the back of my mind about losing my job, but that seems too far away for us right now. And so whatever. So, paying attention to these things now, I am with you. I feel I get a little bit of anxiety because I see the opening and I see the opportunity that dealers can be taking. And the time is now. The time isn't to just try and pretend you're another Carvana. It's to look at, like you said, look in the mirror and be like, hey, here's what we're going to work on right now to get us one step closer. And for the listener to identify whatever that is in the context of their business, it needs to start happening now.
Exactly. You have to be able to embrace change. Don't be afraid of it, right? We can end. I'll give you this. This is a perfect example. So I think everybody knows Brian Benstock from Paragon Honda. And I saw him present on pickup and delivery that he does for his service customers. So his service department is open 24/7.
Right.
He makes no secret of it. He tells everybody how he does it. He tells how it works. He even showed his financial statements in full disclosure and said, I double the dollars per repair order on pickup and delivery compared to a waiter.
Right.
So you would think that every dealership, at least around him in New York City area, would say, oh, wow, we should do this. How come we're not doing it? So as a New York City resident, I'm telling you, not a single car dealer, except for Brian Benstock, offers home pickup and delivery for the service department. No matter how many times he talked about it, no matter how many times he showed his financials, right? This is not a secret. Like, not one dealership does this.
Talk about owning 10 million people in the 5 boroughs.
Right. So in his presentation, he even shows a heat map of how his business was growing, right? Because when he first started, there was a couple of pickups here and there. And now he covers Queens, Long Island, Manhattan, New Jersey. If you are his neighbor and he is on the car road, why wouldn't you do the same? He already proved the concept.
That's it.
But they will find any excuse. We can't find the people, or this is only something that Brian Benstock can do. This is the same excuses they give for Carvana, So all you got to do is embrace the change. Don't fight it.
Yeah. Evolve, adapt. Be okay.
Right. That's it.
When you adapt, it means you're not just adapting for the sake of it. It's because that's where your customers are headed.
Right.
Be the Beatles. Change your style with with your audience. Go with your audience.
And you see, this is not like we're trying to cure cancer. We don't need to go to medical school to get a PhD. This is common sense.
Sure.
If I'm busy working and a local dealer offers pickup and delivery and they say, hey, Max, we're going to fix your car overnight and bring it back to you in the morning so you can go back to work. You took away every single objection. I don't need Jiffy Lube anymore.
That's it. Yeah. Love it, man. Hey, Max, I want to thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. How can those listening or watching get in touch with you?
So my website is my name, maxzanan.com. And, I have 3 books out. I'm working on the 4th one. And I help car dealers basically make money, whether it's in sales and F&I and service, just by helping them implement common sense strategies. Again, I didn't invent any of it. It's all available out there. But sometimes, you need a fresh perspective. And somebody coming in, because oftentimes in the dealership, like in any other organization, you have yes culture, where people are afraid to tell the dealer principal or the general manager what's really going on. And if I come in and there are no sacred cows, I'm not trying to protect anybody, and I can say, hey, this is really messed up. This is what you should do.
Sure.
So like a chiropractor, I come in, minor twitches, minor tweaks, and you're good to go.
Love it, man. I mean, it makes sense. You could pour a bucket of Lego out in front of 20 people and they're all going to see something different. They're all going to assemble that rocket ship differently. And so it's a matter of having somebody that goes, well, I've got experience building rocket ships, if you want to have something that actually looks right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Love it, man. Thank you so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook podcast.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.